Good morning. Good morning. My name is Valerie Leonard. I am the founder of Nonprofit Utopia. I want to say thank you so much for joining us this morning. We have quite a bit to cover. We are focusing on how you can actually define your organization's value proposition. And before we get started, I want to one, invite you to post your name in the chat. Let us know where you're from. If you have any experience in helping organizations to develop their value propositions, that would be wonderful. And also, my question to you is when I ask you about your organization's value proposition, whether you're for profit, nonprofit, educational, or what, will you please type in what it is the first thing that comes to your mind when you're trying to convey the value of your organization to others. So this could be your value to people who use your services. It could be communicating your value to partners. It could be communicating your value to the community. So again, type your comment in the chat. And while you're doing that, I am going to go into the presentation. Okay. Alrighty. So again, we're going to be talking about how to define your organization's value proposition. I just invited you to share your name and where you're from, and also to type in what comes to your mind when we talk about your organization's unique value proposition. All right. So as you think about that, one question you might want to ask is why should a grant maker give you funding as opposed to another nonprofit organization? Why would anybody use your services? And if you're looking for partners, why should we partner with you? Whether you're nonprofit or for profit, social venture, you have to learn how to articulate your unique value. So often we provide services that are useful, that are valuable, but if we're not able to articulate the value, then we're stuck at ground zero. So think about the value that you provide to the clients, that is the people who use your services, the value you provide to board members, people are going to join your board or you're going to be recruiting, what value do you provide? Um, what value do you provide to partners? What's the benefit, right? What value do you provide to investors? What value do you provide to the general public? This presentation is going to help you to understand how you develop products and services as well as communicate the value. You want to get to the point where you're designing your programs and services and communicating your value. You want to do that so that people are coming to you. There's a demand for your services, and you're not just developing things and building things hoping that people will come. All right, just because you build it. I wish things worked that way, but they just don't. All right, so one of the things you're going to learn is why, the answer to why we should work with you as opposed to a nonprofit. So that term work with you, that could be a client who you want to use your services. It could be a board member. It could be a prospective funder, a prospective partner. So, how do you actually communicate that value to those various stakeholders? And how do you develop products, services, and programs that people want as opposed to what you think they should have? All right. And then we're also going to learn the value proposition and the relationship between your business model. Somehow, or sometimes we get the two confused. And we should always remember every business model is built around the value proposition. All right. So before we go any further, I just want to give an acknowledgement that this presentation is based on the value proposition design created by Alex Osterwalder, Yves Benur, Greg Bernarda, and Alan Smith. They're all from Strategizer. All right. So, what is our working definition of unique value proposition? If you're like me, you've learned one definition, but I've come to learn another. And for today, we're going to use this definition. It's a bundle of products, services, and programs that create value for a particular customer segment. All right. So remember, you have to do this whole exercise not just for your organization, but for every program and service that you have, and for every client segment or every customer segment. So your customer segment could be the clients that use your programs and services, but they are going to derive a different value than, say, a board member. You know, a board member is going to derive a similar value, but it's still different from a funder. So, for those reasons, you have to do this exercise for every customer segment. And, you do the same thing, for for people in the community and partners as well. So basically, the bottom line is a value proposition is a set of benefits that you design to attract customers. And remember, your different segments are going to see value for different reasons. So you have to learn how to communicate to each segment differently, but also remaining true to who you are. All right. So, how do you respond when somebody asks you, why should I do business with you as opposed to your competitors? And again, in this case, when we say do business with you, we're talking about people who use your services as clients. We're talking about prospective board members, prospective funders, prospective partners. Our knee jerk reaction is usually to tell people, how we're different, right? Or we want to talk about what it is we produce. We want to talk about our services. We want to talk about our programs. We want to talk about who we serve. However, if you really dig deep, these are not really about value because what? It's about what you do. It's all about you. It's all about us, the people who are producing these programs and services, right? That what we do might be good for people, but it may not necessarily be of value. And if it is of value, right, we don't really know that until they actually are willing to spend some time and some money with us, right? So, a value proposition is a promise of value to be delivered, communicated, or acknowledged. It's also a belief from the customer about value. So, the benefit, how it's going to be delivered, how they're going to experience it, and how they're actually going to get it. And remember, there is no value unless people are willing to spend time, money, or other resources. Otherwise, we're just providing, exercises in designing programs and services that might be good, but nobody uses them. All right. A value proposition has to be relevant. It has to have quantified valuable, and it has to have unique differentiation. All right. So how do we show that is relevant? It's a clear statement that explains how your product is actually going to solve problems, right? Or how it's going to improve situation, how it's going to make your customers' life better. Not our lives better because they're buying from us or because they're giving our organizations money, but what is it that we're doing for our various customer segments? It has to be a quantifiable value, right? It has to deliver specific benefits and it has to be different, it has to be unique. So it's going to tell your ideal customer. Your ideal customer is the main target of all of your activity. Why should they buy from you as opposed to their competition? Why should they spend their time using your programs and services as opposed to the competition? Why should they give you a grant as opposed to your competition? What a value proposition is not, is a list of things we do, all too often, and I'm guilty of it, trying to define how my how my company is different based on the features that we have. But, truth be told, my customers don't care about that. It's not about what I do either, right? It's all about the customer. What is it can we do for the customer? Not this list of activities and not the features that we provide. So we have to be very, very empathetic to our customers. We have to step into our customers' shoes. And again, you need to figure out who the different customer segments are, and you go through this exercise for each segment, right? So suppose your segment is your clients. Identify your clients' jobs. So it may or may not be um, what they do for a living, depending on what your service is. It could be how they live, right? How do they go about living? What is a day in the life for them? Then you need to identify what it is that's keeping them from having life as they would have it, right? What is it that is paining them, right? What is it that they aspire to? And at that point, we're looking at their gains. And then, number five, we need to prioritize their jobs, their gains, and their pains, right? We can't do everything, right? Because we're all complex individuals, that we're serving, right? And we can't be everything to everybody. So we're going to have to prioritize what gains we're going to help them meet. We have to prioritize how we're going to make their lives better. We have to prioritize how we're going to ease their pain. So we start off with our customer profile. So this is our customer map, right? So we think first about what our customers' jobs are, right? What is it that they do on a day-to-day basis? Is it a teen mom that we're serving? If it is a teen mom, what's a day in her life like? Is she able to go to school? Is she having issues with childcare? Right? What are the gains she's looking for in her life? How does she get back on track? Right? I can imagine as a teen mom, her life has been disrupted because, quite frankly, as a married mom, your life is going to be disrupted forever and ever, right? So, how do we get her life back on track? If she had to curtail her education, how do we get her back in school? That might be one thing. How does she get money to pay for her child? How does she develop her life so that she's living more independently? What are some of the pains she's going through? One, I could imagine it's difficult to find someone to take care of her child while she's either at work or in school, at least for a rate that is affordable to her. Another pain she might have is how does she find time to actually study while she's raising her child? So you get where I'm coming from in terms of what a customer's job is, what their gains are, and what their pains are. And you have to start with the customer. All right. So when we look at the customer jobs, we need to take into account the type of work they're doing. That is, get into their psyche, right? And understand what's a day in a life for them like. What are they trying to achieve? What tasks are they involved in on a day to day basis? What problems are they trying to solve, either for themselves or for people that they're serving? What's important to them? What are their priorities? Right? And once you know the answer to these questions, you have to also look at your own capacity to deliver, right? You can't be all things to everybody. And even if you're just serving that one person, you can't be all things to that person or to that funder, to that organization. You have your own capacity and your own priorities that you're trying to balance, right? So given what their priorities are, given what they're going through, given their pains and their gains, what is it? What little niche can you serve right? Within your capacity, within your skill level, within your time, right? And balancing all your own um, priorities, right? So then, once you understand what your customer jobs are, then you want to start thinking about some trigger questions, right? So, what's the one thing that your customer could not live without accomplishing, right? So, what is it that this teen mom, what's first and foremost in her mind? And in order for you to really get this information, guess what? You're going to have to talk to people. You're going to have to do some surveys. You're going to have to do some research. But bottom line is, you're going to have to get into the psyche of who it is you're serving. What are some of the stepping stones that could help your customer achieve this key job? At this point, we're not necessarily talking about what you can do, but we're talking about just in general, what are some of the stepping stones that they need in order to meet their goals, in order to minimize their struggles, right? What are some of the different contexts that your customer is going to find him or herself? So for this teen mom has a home life. She's going to have a personal context, the way she relates to her family and her friends. She's going to have a professional context. How does she relate to people once she's on the job? She's going to also have a context when she's at school or as she tries to get back into school. So, as the context changes for that particular customer, the types of questions that you ask are going to change as well. And then the answers that you get will help you to develop products and services that are specifically targeted to your client base. How do their activities and goals depend upon these different contexts? Again, the only way you're going to know that is to ask. So we're going to start off with the customer pains. What annoys your customers before, during, and after trying to get a job done? So, as they go through their day to day activities, right? What are some of the annoyances that they encounter that might keep them from getting their work done or slow them down? What are some of the barriers that they have to overcome? Your job is to identify three types of customer pains, what their impact on your customer is, and how they prioritize those pains. And you want to make sure that you're specific and understand how your customer prioritizes these pains. So you can also think about desired outcomes, but you also want to be very, very cognizant of the undesired outcomes and the problems and what those characteristics can be. So those customer pains, they can be, first of all, functional. For example, as they go through their day-to-day activities, they're doing something, they're using tools that don't work. Those tools may have served them in the past, but for whatever reason, those tools are not serving them anymore. The pains can be emotional. For example, the task can make them feel bad every time they do it. What are some dreaded tasks that they have going on in their life? And then what are some of the ancillary pains? It's not part of the core of what they're doing, right? But it is a byproduct, is related to what they're doing. And for example, it's annoying to go to the store for this. Alrighty. And then we need to think about what are some of the tasks and what are the outcomes, which is most important, that they don't like, right? For example, they don't like a particular graphic design or the way a product looks. And for you in nonprofit, it's going to be, things like, the customer may not like a current program that they're participating in. It could be one of your programs that they've stopped participating in, right? You need to understand what it is they don't like about that program. What are some of the obstacles? They might like your program, but there may be some obstacles or some barriers uh, for even participating, right? So, what keeps them from getting started with something on a day to day basis? So again, we're coming back to not your program at this point, but a day in their life. What is it that annoys them? What is keeping them from actually reaching their goals? And sometimes it's the procrastination, but there's a reason for procrastination. Procrastination, we don't procrastinate for procrastination's sake. There's a reason that we don't get started doing what we're doing. Sometimes we're overwhelmed because it's not enough time. There just aren't enough hours in a day to get done what we need to do. Sometimes we don't get started or we stop because there's not enough money, there's not enough capacity. So if you're doing training, one of the things you're going to need to figure out is how do you move your clients from where they are to where they should be going, and how do you increase their capacity such that they can do this without you, right? We also need to look at some of the risks. What could go wrong as your client attempts to get his or her job done? I don't know about you, but sometimes, despite my best efforts, I still have things that blow up in my face. And then, once you think about what could go wrong, you need to anticipate what could go wrong, what the consequences are, and how do you mitigate the risk, right? There's risk to everything that we do. And just like we have risks, our customers have risks. So I'm going to share with you some trigger questions that you can ask your customers so that you can understand their pain. So how does your customer define too costly? And price points are going to vary based on who that customer is, right? And the price points, sometimes, nonprofits don't like to think about price points because they're giving away services, they're being funded to give away services. But sometimes you can also provide your services on a sliding scale. And then you need to think about if you're providing services and programs on a sliding scale, or if you're even consulting to other nonprofits, what are your potential customers defining as too costly? What makes your customers feel bad? How are the current value propositions that they're using underperforming for them? So there's some activity, there is some product or service that they're investing time and money in that is no longer serving them. And you need to get at the crux of that. What is it that's no longer serving them? And how do you position your organization so that you can serve them? All right. And what are some of your customers' greatest challenges? And on the opposite side of the pains is the customer gains, right? So the gains are the outcomes and benefits that your customers they want to get on a daily basis, as a direct result of the activities that they're engaged in, right? Some of these gains are required, some of them are expected, some of them are just desired. If I could have my druthers, what would I want? And some of these gains are unexpected bonuses. So the required gains, these are the gains that are necessary in order for them to even consider doing business with you. They're absolute. So without the solution, if you don't give the solution, they're not going to work with you. All right. So, for example, one of our most basic expectations of a cell phone is that we can make a call with it. If we can't make a call on our cell phones, then, we're not going to use it. All right. So, our expected gains, they're relatively basic and we expect it from a solution, even if the solution could work with them. For example, when Apple launched the iPhone and you had other people in the industry copying the iPhone, now we all expect not only to be able to make a call, right? We expect the phones to look good, right? The phones have to be fashionable, right? And then we have the desired gains. What are those things on our wish list, right? We don't necessarily expect it, but these are things we would like to have. All right. So these are things that we think about. What if this solution could do this? What if the solution could do that? All right. So, for example, customers want smartphones to be seamlessly integrated with other devices that they have, devices, like the computer, for example. Some of the unexpected gains, again, these are bonuses. They're beyond your expectations. And to the extent that you can provide a bonus gain without compromising the value, you want to increase your value, but you don't want to deflate your value either. All right. So, for example, an unexpected gain is the Apple touchscreens in the Apple App Store. All right. These are not things your customers absolutely have to have, because there are computers that don't have the touch screens, but they sell anyway, right? But there are, it's great if you can get this unexpected bonus. So think about the unexpected bonuses you can provide. And you can really get to the heart of the matter when you start asking your customers trigger questions for gains. And you can ask them through surveys, through interviews. And some of these questions could include things like, what savings could make them happy? So it could be savings in terms of time, money, effort. And where do they put the most emphasis when it comes to savings, time, and effort? All right. What quality levels? What's the basic level of quality do they expect? And what do they want more of? And what could they do without some of, right? How do current propositions, so again, those solutions that they're currently using, how do those work for them? How do they delight the customers? What specific features? Again, they're not necessarily buying features, but you still need to understand what features they're actually using and what features they could do without. Because many times, for example, on our cell phones, I bought my cell phone not because of all the bells and whistles it had, but because I was laser focused on getting a cell phone where I could get clear pictures that look just as good as what I might get from a photographer. So I got a whole bunch of bells and whistles that I don't use, but that was, something that I had to have. That made or broke, my decision to buy the current phone. So it's our job when we're dealing with our specific customers to really understand what is it, what's their bottom line, what do they absolutely have to have before they make a purchase decision. Excuse me. And remember, when you do these conversations, when you do these surveys, your uh, your task is not to voice your opinions onto people, voice your foregone conclusions about your particular solution, your product, program, or service. You really want to get an unvarnished response so that you can understand how you're going to later position your programs, products, and services. So, what performance and quality have they come to expect from the programs, products, and services they use, from the volunteer engagement that they take on, from the board work that they take on, from the grants that they make, right? What could make their jobs easier? So if you're dealing with your clients that you provide services for, what is it you can do for them, or what is it out there that can be done for them that could make their lives easier, that it can help them to um, have an easier life, more efficiency as they go along, help them meet their goals, help them minimize some of their pain. And again, your clients or your customers are going to have very different expectations based on who they are. Um, what could no is there a value behind helping them learn something faster, helping them save money, helping them improve their education level, helping them to improve their job skills so that they can go and make money? What are the consequences for them not acting at all? So once we really understand, what triggers them, we can begin to complete their customer profile. And remember, we have to complete the customer profile before we can really think about what it is we're going to do for them. All right. So, what is it that's most important to them? So, and then you have to understand what's priority to them. But then, as you rank their jobs, pains, and gains, you need to also look at this through a lens of what it is your organization does, can do, has the skill to do, has the capacity to do. How would you describe your ideal customer? That is, if you had your druthers, your perfect customer base, what does he or she do for a living? What are his or her challenges? And what are their desired outcomes? What are their gains? So now, once you know all of that, you want to be able to map that out. And then, and that's just for your customers. Now you work on the value map, right? The value map is the value that you as an organization bring to your customers. So the value could be, again, to the funder. The value could be to the people you serve on a day-to-day basis. The value could be to your employees. Of course, you have to provide value to your employees because you want to be able to keep top-notch talent. So what is it about your target, your ideal customer? Now that you know what their day in a life is like, now that you know the gains that they're trying to achieve, now that you know the pain relievers, plot those as well. What is it? What attributes can actually help them meet their goals? What attributes of what it is that you could potentially offer could actually help them to ease their pain? And at this point, you're thinking in general, but then when it comes to the products and services, you're going to get more specific, right? What is it that you can provide? What products, what services you could provide that will actually help them to create gain in their lives? That is, help them achieve their goals. And that's going to help them to actually reduce some of their pain. That's where you get more specific. So, overall, how do you make your client's life better? And that's going to differ based on what segment you're speaking to. So, here's some sample trigger questions. Um, what quality levels do your customers expect? And what would they want more of, less of? What could make their lives easier? And what positive social consequences do they desire? All right. So when it comes to pain relievers, you want to be able to describe how your products, services, and programs relieve specific pain. So for example, your if your customer is a funder, one of their pains could be, they have designed a grant making program, but they don't have the access to the community that your organization has, right? So, what is it or how is it that your particular organization can actually make their lives easier as it relates to grant making? All right. So, again, you want to think of a specific outline of how you intend to eliminate or reduce some of the things that annoy them before, during, or after they're trying to complete a job so that you can, again, make their lives easier. All right, so when we think about the best value propositions, they're focusing on the most extreme pains that your ideal client has. They don't necessarily have a pain reliever for every identified customer pain. So, as you may have guessed, this is kind of a brainstorming process, especially when you're just thinking off the top of your head. How can you relieve their pain? How can you increase their gains without thinking about what it is you can do? After you go through that brainstorming process, then you're going to get more specific about what are the most extreme pains that you can address. And that's probably what you're going to be able to make the biggest impact with them. And you don't have to be everything to them, you don't have to solve every one of their problems. So you want to focus on the few things that are really, really bugging them, right? That you can alleviate very well because this is within your bailiwick, right? So the game creators, you want to describe how your products and services create customer gains. So describe how it is you can help them achieve their goals, how you're going to make their life easier, how you intend to help them produce the outcomes and benefits that they have come to expect. What desires do they have, or how would they be pleasantly surprised, right? So, what functional utility could you provide? What social gains could you provide? What positive emotions does your product or service provide? What cost savings? What time savings? How can you help them increase their efficiency so that they can go about their lives better? So at this point, you want to think about the products, services, and the programs. So you want to think about, and this goes whether you are a for profit, a nonprofit, if you are a nonprofit who is starting a for profit social enterprise. So you want to think about the physical attributes that this product is going to have. Um, the intangible things like intellectual property, copyrights, trademarks, service marks, goodwill, programs and services. And don't think that just because you're in nonprofit that people won't steal your stuff, right? So it becomes really important for you to protect your intellectual property, and that begins to increase the value proposition that you have to your clients and community. Uh, think about digital products. Will there be music downloads, podcasts, books, videos, online courses? And yes, your nonprofit can develop an online course. If you need help with that, that's something I can help you with. Just let me know. And then you think about the financial aspect. How is it that your product, program, or service, how is your program or service going to help them save money or make money? Um, how is it going to help them save money, make money, save money, be more efficient, and therefore attract more money? So if you notice, we went over half of this total map at a time. We started on the right side with the customer, and then we finished up on the left side with ourselves, right? So the point of value is the intersection between what the customer wants and what you can provide. And the customer is going to want something not just because they have to have this shiny little object. The customer values something that is going to help his life be easier, going to help them achieve their goals and minimize their pains. And if you can design products and services that are going to create gains for them, that are going to minimize pains, and that are going to have those attributes, it could be a program that you're working on. The program, for example, if you're working with people who have substance abuse problems, is your program going to provide a whole range of things that will help them get their addiction under control? Is it going to provide assessment? Is it going to provide counseling? Is it going to provide referrals? And to what end, right? You're not just doing this stuff, right, just to be doing it. You want to create programs and services that are going to be useful, make their lives easier, achieve their goals, minimize their pains. So here is a sample value proposition, and this is based on a book that Strategizer put together. All right, and their book is the Value Proposition Canvas. All right, and actually, it's not the book; it's their canvas. So this is a canvas that you can download. You can go to strategizer.com. You can download this for yourself and you can go through this exercise for yourself. If you are a member of the Nonprofit Utopia community, we have this for you and you can go through it yourself. And on Wednesday, I can review it with you, right? So, the value proposition canvas, which is this whole map, right? They wanted to look at, you know, how valuable this is, right? So there's a value proposition methodology, there's a book, right? And the customer segment is people who read business books. So I promise you, I'm not going to read all of this, but where you see the yellow under customer jobs, people who might find this book useful. We all want to look good with our colleagues, with our boss, with our clients, with our partners. We want to improve our skill sets. We want to improve our careers, how we want to advance. If we take a lateral move, we want to make sure we're being strategic so that this will actually help us in the long run. We want to find and learn and apply methods, but at the same time, right, what's the value? We want to make sure that whatever the solution is easy to understand. We can have better collaboration. We can connect with like minded people. And then some of the pains of developing these new processes, so often that what we do is based in theory. And I will admit that I'm guilty of basing a lot of what I do in theory. And that's because the marketplace, in terms of funders, they are looking for evidence-based programs, and you have to demonstrate that you understand the theory first before you go and break things down and make them simple. But in this case, they wanted a product that didn't use too much theory. They wanted to also avoid the pain of, putting too much time and effort into something and only to be going down the wrong path. So the solutions, some of the products you can provide to address some of these issues are the value proposition canvas, which is this map that you can use to brainstorm. It could be a book on how to use this and actually expand your value. It could be a series of online exercises and tools. It could be an exclusive online companion to this map. It could be a web app that you can, that your clients can download. It could be an online course. And notice they have upsell. So there are basic levels of products and services, and then there are upsells. These are products and services that have value added, so you're going to charge an additional fee. And again, that all depends on who your client is and what they're looking for. So, in a nutshell, after they've gone through all of that brainstorming, they have been able to value their, to put all of their value in one sentence, right? Our book helps professionals who want to improve or build business by avoiding making stuff nobody wants, and creating clear indicators to measure progress. Right? So that's the name of the book, Value Proposition Design. And they tested this book's value before they launched it by going through that process. All right, and here's an example for capacity building blocks, which is one of our programs. The Nonprofit Utopia Capacity Building Blocks program helps nonprofit professionals build sustainable organizations by increasing their confidence to lead, accelerating their learning curve, and increasing their fundraising potential. So that's the value this program brings to people who participate in it. So there is a formula for creating your value proposition statement. Our blank products and services, so you fill in the blank, helps, and you fill in your customer segment. So this could be unwed mothers, this could be high school dropouts, this could be ex offenders, this could be ex offenders who happen to be mothers who are separated from their children. All right, so our products and service helps our customer segment who want to, so think about the specific job that they want to get done. This could be, finish high school. This could be going about their lives, improving the quality of their lives. So they want to get the job done by, it could be increasing something. You want to give them more of something, giving them more time, giving them more skills, increasing their capacity. It could be reducing harm. It could be reducing their dependence on something. It could be leading them to, reducing their dependency on others in order to live, right? Or avoiding something, avoiding addiction. And it could, you use your own verb. And if you want to, you could say, unlike, this other group, and you need to be careful about naming names. So rather than saying this other group, unlike, a solution that they provide that is not adequate, right? So you don't have to mention names, or, unlike another program, one program, all they do is refer, and I'm not saying that referrals are not valuable, but if you are a program that provides a direct service and you don't have to rely on referrals, then you have an advantage. You can say, unlike other programs who rely specifically on referrals, we have the internal capacity and skill set to do this work ourselves. All right. So now it's your turn. What is your unique value proposition, right? So, what products and services can you provide to your ideal client that's going to make their life easier, that's going to help them achieve their goals, that's going to help them minimize their pain? And if you're in the Nonprofit Utopia community, you're able to download these tools right now. You can download a blank value proposition canvas so you can mark up. You can look at the 10 characteristics of great value propositions. There's a checklist. You can also get a template to fill out so you can brainstorm about what your one sentence value proposition is going to be, fill in the blanks. There is a list of sample trigger questions for customer gains that you can tweak for your own specific situation. You can download a customer jobs trigger questions worksheet and think about some of the questions that you want to ask. There is another set of questions for customer pains, customer gains, so gain creators trigger questions, and then pain relievers. All right, so you can download all of that and have at it. And then on Wednesday, when we have our members only session, right there in the community, you can, bring some of these documents to, I know it's not enough time to finish everything, get as far as you can, but at a minimum, try to have your value proposition canvas finished and we can go over that. If you started to work on some of your value proposition questions, we can go over that as well. All right, so if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post. If you're watching live, if you're watching the video, feel free to post and tag me so that I can come back and respond. If you're in our community, make sure you go to the community and download those documents and get started working. You can feel free to join us. Um, we have the link to our online community and you can join us. And if you're part of our forum, you can feel free to post any questions that you might have. All right, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. All right, at this point, I am going to take any questions that you might have. Um, All right. So James Davis, he indicated that he doesn't have experience helping others with their value proposition. Okay, James, thank you for sharing. You are a part of our community and we can talk about that. If you want to learn more about actually helping others, I guarantee you, if you take advantage of those materials that we have downloaded, that you will, start to get comfortable in developing, helping others to develop their value proposition. All right, James, it sounds like determining my customer's pain is the same task as conducting a needs assessment. How can I get paid for conducting the needs assessment? That's part of your coaching. You can, if you are a coach, if you want to start charging for your coaching, you need to develop a coaching system that helps you um, move your clients from one point to the other, a very specific outcome. And part of what you do will include a needs assessment, really getting to understand what your coaching client needs and how you can help guide them from where they are to where they want to be. All right. Dana Peterson. Thank you, Valerie. This was quite valuable. And Dana, you have made my day. Thank you so much. If you have any other questions, let me know. But thank you so much for that. I really needed to hear that. And James, as always, your questions are always very thoughtful. It shows me that you are really thinking about the stuff that we're doing and ways to add value to people with whom you come in contact. All right, so if there are no more questions, I am going to sign off now. I'll give you a couple more seconds. If there is anything that anyone wants to add before I sign off, just let me know. All right. James, thanks for the coaching suggestion. I had not thought about this. Great session. Yeah, James, you would be an awesome coach. Based on our interactions, on our little one-on-ones and our interactions with any program we have, you are the ideal person to help coach people, from their existing situation to achieving, their desired result. All right. So without further ado, it doesn't look like there are any more questions or comments. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to spend with me. All right. Take care. And members, make sure you take advantage of all the materials that we have and be prepared to meet with me on Wednesday. Take care. Bye bye.